Hello everybody and welcome to FEMME FLEX Friday. I am your host today, Alina Popa. Unfortunately, my co-host Lenda Murray couldn't be here today, but I have a special guest for you. Natalia Coelho is here today in our studio. Natalia, welcome to our show. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Yes, it's my honor. I'm still like amazed to be able to be here talking to you. And of course, Linda's not here, but we feel her spirit. She's here in spirit.
Absolutely, she's here with us in spirit.
Yes.
Natalia, you are one of the biggest stars in this industry, right? In the women's physique division. Everybody knows your name, but I also know that you are one of the youngest athletes to ever turn pro, right? When did you turn pro?
I turned pro in 2015. It was in Nationals in Miami. And I was 19. So
you were 19. Wow. That's a very young age to turn pro, right?
Yeah.
But walk us a little bit back through your beginning. So where did you start? Have you always been athletic? Have you been doing sports? I know that you're Brazilian, right? Were you born in Brazil?
Well, I was not born in Brazil. I was born in New York, but I moved to Brazil when I was very young. So I was raised in Brazil, and I have these like two citizenships. But I was born in New York, raised in Brazil, and I used to play soccer, and I did Muay Thai in Brazil.
Oh,
so that's a little bit of my background in sports. But I started like bodybuilding when I moved to US.
Okay.
And
so when did you move to the United States?
I moved when I was about 14 to 15 years.
Okay, that's quite young.
Yes. And then I just started going to the gym here, and I saw like, it was the only place, because when I moved here, I didn't speak English, I didn't know anybody. And my parents, my mom was always with me, but my father lives in Brazil, my grandparents. So when I moved here, it was a big change in my life, because my friends, my family, everybody was there. And it was not only like changing, like just moving to a place. It's like new school, new language, new culture. Everything is new.
Yeah, because you didn't speak English, did you?
No.
So how did you do? Like you got here and you had to go to high school without speaking English, studying in a language that you were not actually understanding.
That?
Wow.
So it was funny because I was like in class and I could not understand the English, and I had to learn like chemistry and history and all these subjects that are not easy, but in another language. So I learned because I had to learn. I had no other option. I was living here, and I had to find a way to be able to communicate.
Okay.
The only way to do that was to learn the language.
Absolutely. So then you started going to the gym as an alternative to having friends, you said?
Well, I wouldn't say have friends, but it was a place that I didn't need the language, I didn't need anything. It was just about me, my discipline. So I could go there and find myself and be who I am without anybody judging me. So it was somewhere just that I felt very comfortable.
Okay.
And that's how I actually met an old school bodybuilder. And he was much older, his name is Wade. And he introduced me to the sport.
Oh,
I was still like very young, kind of like, I don't know if that's like how it's gonna be if I compete or, But he took me to a few shows to watch the shows. He took me backstage and I was amazed.
How did you know that this is what you want to do? Like you want to look like that? Is that pretty much what you decided?
I believe I never chose how I want to look. I think the sports chose me.
Okay.
So it was something
That's a good perspective.
Right, it was something that I just did what I love to do, and my body was still like developing. And as most of the judges told me, you gotta do what the category that your body fits into.
Okay, yeah.
So I started in figure. It went well for a few, like 3 or 4 years.
What was your first show?
My first show was at the NPC 2013, the Southeastern USA.
Okay.
And I did teenagers, and it was just like amazing, to be on stage. And I was so young. I was like 16 to 17.
Wow, that's young.
So it was very.
So that was the first time when you got on stage, and you absolutely loved the experience of being on stage, right?
And yeah, because a lot of people say your first show is gonna be just like you don't know what to expect, so just have fun. But no, I was so comfortable. I felt like the minute that I stepped on stage, I told myself, I'm gonna go far. Like, I'm gonna be competing for a long time.
Wow.
And I just like
that's
love
big
it.
right there. Like, I get goosebumps when you tell me all of this, because it's pretty much as you said. It's the sport pretty much chose you. You know, you happen to be there, and then you made a connection. I was like, I want to do this. Not only that, but you're telling me that you not even the first time you didn't have any stage fright, right? You were not intimidated at all, not nervous.
And I think like I was prepared. So I hired a coach. Chris Edie was my first coach, and he walked me through everything that I needed to do. I was posing, I was practicing, my diet was on point. So I knew I was bringing like a very complete package.
Okay.
Even though I was still young, I didn't have much muscle or experience, but whatever I could do, I covered this.
So you knew that you didn't leave any stone unturned.
Yes.
So that gave you the confidence to kind of get on stage and just enjoy everything that comes with it, right?
And that's the most important part, you know, you have to enjoy what you do. You have to have passion for what you do. If not, what's the point, right?
I agree, but you know, like a lot of these people, of these athletes, let's say, are very talented, right? But then I still hear a lot of them saying that the moment they step on stage, they get nervous, right? So I don't know if it has to do with the personality, maybe, you know, because some of us are more shy than others, right?
Well, I believe like a lot of people, most of the athletes, they work very hard at the gym, training and everything, but they forget to train the mind.
Oh, that's a very
once you
interesting
start
perspective.
like getting ready in your competition, in your prep, make sure you're not just getting ready physically but mentally.
So how do you train your mind? That's very interesting. I would like to discuss that.
I went to school for a few things that are related to that. Everything that I do is to improve myself as an athlete and as a professional, you know. So I took a few like sports psychology classes and stuff that really opened my mind. I had a few mentors in my life. I watch a lot of podcasts and things of like very motivational and, you know, like people who are successful, and that helps me a lot to have a bigger picture in my mind. But I do like yoga sometimes helps me, meditation helps me, just like deep breathing. So that's very important. Before going on stage, stop, think about what you're doing, why you're doing that, and you got to be able to see yourself as a winner. Not to get the first place, but to be like your own, like everything that you went through to see that it was worth it, if you know what I mean.
So pretty much a part of your mental training is, let's say, this technique which is called visualization, right? Yes. In which you see yourself literally being on stage and not necessarily winning, but being in such a strong position and doing your best and surrounded by such good energy, right?
Yes.
That is literally, you're going to be a winner no matter what, right?
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes the winner doesn't have the first place trophy, but it's inside them. They can feel that they draw the best.
Yeah. So like walk us a little bit now where you were, right? Where we were left at you doing your first show and falling in love, and like let us see the winner that you are.
Okay, so I did my first show, the Southeastern USA, and then wow, right now I've done 30 shows so far.
30 shows, wow.
Which is a lot because I'm 24.
You're 24, so that's what, how many years later?
I started competing in 13, so yeah.
7 years, 7, 8 years. Okay, that's a lot of shows.
Right. But in the beginning, I was doing a lot of shows because I just want to have the experience, and I love it. People are like, oh, it's not good for your body. Depends. If you're doing that in a healthy way,
and
why
you
not?
did start as a figure, right?
I started
in the figure division,
So I started as a figure. I did a few shows, like local shows. And then I did my first national qualifier, which was in North Americans. I placed 5th.
Okay.
And in the same year, I went to nationals, which is in Miami. And I got first place in my class, and I turned pro.
That's awesome.
So this very first year, I was so motivated because, as I told you before, when I started competing, I had a goal, and I said, I can see myself in the Olympia stage one day.
So when did you realize that?
The minute I stepped on stage.
The first show, that little stage show that you did, wow.
Because if you don't believe you can do it, how are you gonna do it?
I agree,
It all starts with the belief. So
maybe that's why you actually achieved it so soon, because you were so focused on it and put the work in, and then you got the goal closer to you, right?
Yes, I agree. I mean, sometimes that's what it takes, the belief in yourself. And most of the people lack that. But it's just something that when I step on stage, the feeling that I had, I cannot put into words. You know, if you never felt that before, it's because you don't know what passion is. Once you feel what I felt, you're gonna be sure that that's what you want to do for your life. And it's for anything in life, you know. It doesn't have to be competing. You can be anything in any aspect of your life. If you have this feeling, stick to it, because it's a God saying, like, that's the way you gotta go.
Yeah, I mean, we both agree that the preps can be really hard sometimes,
for
right?
Sure, yes, it's part of the game.
Most of the times,
yes.
they're hard, but probably it makes the prize in the end, it tastes sweeter because you had to work for it harder, right?
Because you earned it, you know. I don't want anything given to me. I want to, you know, work hard. So whenever I get to my goal, I feel like I earned what I
So are you telling me that some of those hard days, you know, like let's say you're 2-3 weeks before the show and then you're tired, you're depleted, your body, your mind tells you need to stop because you need to recharge, right? So some of those days when anybody would be down, you don't have those days actually?
I love it. You know, like, it's just like I told you, it's a mindset thing. You know, it's hard, it is, but that's what I chose to do. Nobody forced me to do it. In the other side, people are like, no, don't compete, don't do that, that's not a female sport. And I'm like, no, I want to prove you guys that that's not right, that's not true. You know, it is a female sport as well. And you do not need to look masculine, you do not need to do things that are not healthy for you.
Yeah.
You know, and you can still be part of it.
Have you ever always had support from your family, from your friends? I mean, it must have been really hard in the beginning. I can only imagine as a teenager who doesn't speak the language, and then you step on stage, right? And then this brings you all of that confidence, right? Because I mean, like, honestly, it's only like a few years later and you're like just a wonderful bloom flower, right? And not only that, but you're so inspirational. Like, I feel like what you're telling people, believe in yourself. Like, this is the best example, right?
Yes, no, I didn't have support in the beginning. It was kind of hard, not only like my family, but also like in school and all that stuff. Because my mom put me in ballet classes. And she's like, okay, that's what you're gonna do. You know, she was teaching me all the poses, the posture, and everything else. And I come home, Mom, I wanna be a bodybuilder. She's like, what is a bodybuilder? So I'm like, Mom, have you watched like Arnold Schwarzenegger shows, like videos and stuff? She's like, I see him like doing movies and stuff like that. I'm like, no, on stage. So I had to teach her and my family what bodybuilding is and what I want to do for my life. So it was not very easy. And yes, like in school, I was prepping, so I need to have my meals. I have time for everything. I am very disciplined, you know, with all my times and stuff. It's like I was in class and my professors would be like, no, Natalia, you cannot eat now. I'm like, it's time to eat. And they're like, what do you mean it's time to eat? It's not lunch break. And I'm like, how am I going to explain to them? And I couldn't speak the English to tell them what I mean. So I was like, no, eat. I have to eat. And people like, huh, what she's talking about? I was kicked out of my classrooms many times. I got detention once.
What? Detention?
Because I was eating, yes.
Because you were eating?
So I had to stay after class, sitting with a lot of people who did like...
And still eating.
And still eating. But yeah, I think all of that just like add like a sweeter taste to my journey because I had to fight to do what I wanted to. My mom gave me a hard time in the beginning, and today she's the most supportive. You know, like if you see my mom on stage on the shows, you're gonna know she's my mom because she's screaming. She's always with me, and she's like my best friend.
That's awesome.
So now she's really close to me. I mean, she's always been close, but now she really supports the sport because she understands.
Yeah, that is fascinating. That's fascinating. So, going back now on the timeline, you just turned pro at Nationals, right, in Miami. Nationals. And what did you do after that? Then you turned pro in figure, right?
Yes, I turned pro in figure, and then I did the Miami Muscle Beach, which was a few weeks later. And then that was my first figure show, pro show. I got 4th.
Okay.
And then I went to the Europa Games in Dallas. And I did like so many shows this year. 2017 was a year that I did so many shows. 2016 actually. In
16, but you qualified for Olympia that year, right?
Yes, that's why I was doing all these shows because I won the points.
Oh, so you got points,
that. Yes.
Okay. So how was your first Olympia in figure?
Oh my gosh, it was just crazy because to know that I was only 19 and I was already qualified to go to Olympia. I cannot explain what I was feeling.
At that time,
You know,
I think you were the first athlete who ever turned pro so early, right? So young in
Yes,
life
I believe
at that
so.
point.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But, and then I got qualified for the show, for the Olympia. Did the Olympia, placed last, actually 15th.
Okay.
And then I remember perfectly going out of the stage, going off stage. My mom was there like, it's okay, it's, you know, your first time. I was jumping, I was so happy. And people like, do you know that you are like 15th? And I'm like, so what? You know, it's the Olympia, I am enjoying this. This just like,
Absolutely.
That was my goal to being there. And she's like, it's okay, Natalia, next time you get better. I'm like, Mom, you don't understand. You know, so I was so happy that I know I was happier than the first place. No joke. Of course, it's good to place first, but the feeling that I was having, like the accomplishment feeling and the feeling of proudness and appreciation and everything at the same time was just like an amazing experience.
This is so awesome.
But yeah, that was 2016, and then 2017, I was also qualified for the Olympia. I did a few shows, figure pro shows. I got a few first places.
So this was still figure in 17,
Figure,
right?
yes.
So how did the second Olympia figure?
I placed even lower.
Oh, even lower.
Now
Okay.
I placed last.
But were you happier?
I was happier.
Because that was the second one, right?
Yes, right? So people are like, well, Natalia, so what are you going to do? Like, it didn't make sense that to be winning shows, pro shows, get to the Olympia and place last. I'm like, okay, I want to understand why.
Yes.
Some people, most of the athletes actually, they don't know the importance of talking to the judges.
Mm-hmm,
And
I agree.
seeing why, because if I am last, there's a reason for that. It's not because I don't look good, because every athlete on that stage looks good. You know, everybody in there, to be in this level, you gotta look good. So every show that I do, I get critique and feedback from the judges, no matter if I'm first or last. Even at the Arnold, got first place, got a feedback, because I think it's important. As an athlete, you want to always be improving. So I talked to Sandy, and that was the night that changed my whole career, because she told me the reason why. She was trying to prove her point, that I was too conditioned.
Okay, so you were already getting too conditioned for the figure class.
Yes.
Okay, because we all know that this is one of your strengths right now in the physique division, right? Your
Yes.
conditioning, your definition, and all of that quality. Okay.
But
Talking about judges' feedback, I have a personal question. So do you remember last year at the Rising Phoenix?
yes.
What was the feedback for last year? Because it was so unexpected that you didn't win that show, right?
It was the same thing. Sandy was the head judge, and she told me the same thing. Natalia, you're pushing too much. You're very conditioned. I can see striations in your glutes. And that's important for us as athletes to pay attention to what we're doing, because sometimes more is not better. And I couldn't see that until she showed me exactly what she means.
Okay.
And I listened to her.
And
I'm
what
like,
was it? What kind of poses are those that show your striations way too much?
Like my quads, they get very feathered when I start leaning down. But that's something that I was able to manage, changing my posing and some angles and some things that I was doing. But my glutes would get too shredded. And she was like, yeah, you have to be careful with that.
I mean, this is so hard in this world, especially as a young woman, to have the problem of getting your glutes too shredded.
Right. It's
like you're so blessed, girl.
But that's what I tell people. They're like, how can I get my glutes like yours? And I'm like, of course, genetics plays a role, but I eat clean all year round.
Yeah.
If I'm off season, I usually tell people, I only diet twice a year. When I'm in prep and when I'm not in prep. So I'm dieting all the time. But it's not really dieting. I don't call it dieting. I call it eating healthy.
Yeah, it's your lifestyle,
I know
right?
that everything I put in my body is gonna do something to me. So I want to make sure that I am doing nourishing my body.
That's fantastic. Okay, so then you made, after 17, when you still placed bad at the Olympia, you got the judges' feedback. They told you that you're too muscular, too conditioned. So this is when you switched to physique, right?
Yes, so I remember talking to Tamer, to Bob, and to a lot of people about this transition, because I was very afraid of making this transition. I'm like, I don't want to go any bigger. I was still like, should I go, should I not? And then after the night, I remember being on the Olympia night, after the show, calling Sandy, talking to her on the phone. And she was like, Natalia, give it a try. It's not gonna hurt you. You're only gonna know if it's gonna work or not if you try.
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna bring the same package. I'm gonna do exactly what I'm doing. Bring
just different poses, right?
Yes. Practice the poses and see how I do in a pro show as women's physique competitor. And I got first place. My first show. It was like 4 weeks after the Olympia, and I won. And I was like, wow. You see how important it is to listen to them? To
be in the right division, right?
Exactly.
And listen to the judges' feedback and find your... So that's pretty much what it started. So obviously you're going to compete this year, right? At the Olympia. Do you do any other shows before that this year? Do you have any plans for that?
My plan is the Olympia. I did the Arnold and Olympia, but we never know. I don't like to say never, never say never.
Yeah.
But the plan as of now is the Olympia.
How about your long-term goals? So what do you want to do? What do you want to achieve in the sport itself? And for how long do you want to do this,
I want to represent this sport with my whole heart. I really love what I do. And I have such a passion that I cannot put into words, that I want to make a legacy. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, nobody believed him in the beginning. He came to a new country. He didn't speak the English. He was just of course, he had potential. People saw that. Joe Weider saw that.
Yep.
But I can see myself being like the female version of Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I don't just say that. I mean it, because I want to put the work in. I want to be part of this industry. I want to help people. I want to get people understand what this sport is about. It's not only about I want to get first, I want to get second or whatever. No, it's about getting people to know what we do and why we do it. So my long term, I would say it's create a legacy.
Oh, that's awesome. So you want to be the female version of Arnold Schwarzenegger. So that means that one day you're going to be governor somewhere. At that point, remember, I interviewed you.
Okay.
That's fantastic. Well, Natalia, thank you so much for joining us today. It is truly a pleasure to get to know such an inspirational athlete. You're so successful, you're so beautiful, and it's honestly an honor to be able to stay here and share this energy with you and with our viewers. So thank you so much. And I want to wish you the best also this year and for the years to come. And you guys, thank you for following us. Thank you for watching us. And I'll catch you on our next episode of FEMME FLEX Friday.
And I see you at the Olympia.